Hey, what's up, Rattlers? So we all know Mike Novy from Rainforest Junkys. We've seen him at the shows, we've seen him at Tinley. He deals with some of the most amazing frog morphs there are, and for years he's been saying, Dave, you've got to come out to Cleveland and do an episode on my frogs, and a lot of you guys have requested a frog episode, so went online, found a $92 round-trip plane ticket out here to Cleveland. So finally, I'm here at Rainforest Junkys, and Mike is going to take us on a tour of this place and show us some of the most amazing frog morphs you guys have ever seen.
I'm Dāv Kaufman, and I tour the world to see how reptiles are living in the wild. And while I'm at it, checking out some of the most amazing facilities and reptile expos as well. It's all about learning, appreciation, and conservation. So come with me and join my reptile adventures.
At Rainbow Mealworms, we grow all our insects 100% naturally so that you get the freshest, most lively feeders on the market. So for all your reptile food needs, place your order today at rainbowmealworms.net.
All right, Mike at Rainforest Junkys, you have so many frogs, we're just not going to be able to see them all, but I want to definitely see all the highlights. So, all right, man, well, take us on a tour.
All right, let's go. These are cinnamon frogs.
Cinnamon frogs.
Yeah, these are the ones that just morphed out.
These are native to Malaysia.
Yeah, basically what I do is I get them to morph out like this, and I'll actually put a feeding station in there where they'll start eating in here right away. So when people go to buy them, they're already feeder station trained.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, they're really easy to take care of. I mean, you just don't want to get them any above, say, 76 degrees. This shows the tadpoles in their stages. Some of them are starting to pop their front legs out.
So it must get, like, really loud in here at night.
Yes, with these guys, when I had, like, over 200 of them, I raised them up to where they get about this size, or they're almost adults. But the males start calling about 2 months old. When you have that many calling at the same time and you're trying to sleep, because I'll sleep down here sometimes because I work a little late, I'm trying to sleep, the room started to spin. That's how loud it got in
Oh,
here.
jeez.
So, I mean, and I've slept like a baby in Costa Rica with all that noise going on, but these guys were so annoyingly loud that it was just, yeah, it was, I was done. I actually had to put them in the other room so they would shut up. So, but the mossies will start calling once in a while.
Yeah, so let's check out these mossies here.
So, these are ones that I'm raising up.
Cool, and these are the Vietnamese mossy frogs.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are awesome. So how long you been breeding these?
About 6 years now. Yeah.
6 years. At what age do the mossy frogs reach sexual maturity?
About a year.
About a year, all right.
So they're about ready to go into a tank, which is what that bottom tank is for.
Okay.
Right here. Collecting dust, of course, but this is going to be their new home.
And then you've got some up here.
Mm-hmm. These are the original adults. These are about 6 to 7 years old.
All right, so what do we got over on this corner of the room?
Well, we got the Harlequin Folds down there.
Oh, these guys are awesome. Found
Yeah.
these in Peru.
Basically, we're going to try and work on getting these guys to breed. They actually are starting to get a little more stimulated. Basically, what I'm trying to do with these guys is trying to set up a river system where it's growing the algae diatoms on it, which is starting to grow right here. So this way, when they do actually breed, the eggs hatch, they actually can eat that. That's typically what the Antilopus tadpoles eat. It seems like a lot of people have been unsuccessful with feeding them just regular like fish flake or anything like that.
Right.
So we're just going to try and do it naturally and get it going. That's why we got the air stones and got the filtration going on it. We calm down the filtration because we figured if they did breed, we don't want the sperm to get washed away from the eggs.
Yep.
So that's our first and utmost goal, at least. You can tell the difference between the male and female in this. A little bit thinner on the males. The females are starting to bloat up. Has been a little bit of calling, not much, but we feel that they aren't calling enough. We just give them a little incentive.
So to get these guys into the mood, as it were, you just turn on the mister there, and that gets them kind of going, doesn't it?
Gets them a little bit more motivated. Yep. So the natural river that they're from actually is the temperature was recorded at 74 to 75 degrees. So we really didn't want to actually mess that up. So that's why we actually use the filtration without the UV sterilizer to help the diatoms grow for the algae diatoms. And then we have the chiller to actually keep it at 74, 75 degrees.
So you're actually cooling down the water
Correct.
before you put it in.
And then this way, it's kind of like, it acts like the mountain rains coming down. So this way it makes it a little bit cooler. Now same thing goes with the glass frogs over here. Same method, cooling, but the water has to be, for whatever reason, their temperature has to be around 72 to 73. So, and these actual filters do create a little bit of heat, so you got to kind of help keep that water.
Right, you have to take into consideration that this is going to cool it down, but that's going to heat it up a little bit.
Right. So you want to make sure that it stays cool. So, the glass frogs, if you want to check those guys out.
I certainly do. These are one of my favorite frogs.
These are the Tritium Valerie.
So these are from Costa Rica.
Correct.
Yep. So Brian, who founded and manages the Costa Rican Amphibian Research Center, his daughter is Valerie, and he was the one to describe these glass frogs, and he actually named these after his daughter Valerie. Did you know that?
I do now.
Okay, so this is red emerald philodendron, right?
This is another type of philodendron. It seems like what you want to make sure whenever you have glass frogs, you want to make sure that the leaves are smooth, that they don't have any rough edges. They seem to enjoy those a lot more, like especially like peace lilies, like, or spathiphyllum, whatever you want to call the plants itself. If it has if you put bromeliads in with your glass frogs, you got to make sure that they have smooth leaves, no jagged, because they can tear really fast.
Yeah, right.
These are another form of like the strawberries that you normally see, like strawberry dart frogs. Typically, the ones they call strawberries are blue and red, but these, on the other hand, are green with blue legs. Right here, we've got some film canisters that they can actually carry their tadpoles to, in each one, and then the female will actually lay an unfertile egg in each one for the actual tadpole itself.
Oh, that's actually pretty ingenious. All right, room number 2. What do we got in here?
Some more dart frogs. These right here are they used to call them Dendrobates azureus. Now they're called Dendrobates tinctorius. And now these are found at Suriname, and now people are working with them so much, that they've gotten them to work with them and breed them so much that there's actually probably more in the state of Ohio than there is actually the country of origin.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they'll lay an average of like anywhere from 6 to 8 eggs every month. Or not every month, every week.
Every week, right.
So
6 to 8 eggs every week. Okay, so this is the upstairs room. All right, so here's the Phylomedusas. These are the waxy monkey frogs. We saw these in Peru, and these are one of my favorite frogs.
this is the Peruvian ones. And this is a female I got in my hand right now, roughly about 2 years, because they came in like little guys with tails practically. And I'm surprised they actually made it, but
look at those. What, hands, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So, meat hooks, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this thing's from 2002 import, and every year it gets more and more yellow on its legs for the last 2 or 3 years now. And still looks like it's pretty healthy for being like 17 years old. So I imagine that this is the way that they gray up as opposed to us.
They turn yellow.
They turn yellow. And I mean, I don't know if they make it that long in the wild. But
well, 17 years, and
17 years.
Were they probably adults when you got them?
Yeah, they're wild-caught adults.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about your setups here. You just have them on paper towels with a little water dish in there. Mm-hmm. What? That isn't how I would think to set up these types of frogs.
No, it's a lot. A lot of people make a mistake. It was sometimes when you have this big of a collection, you can't have just terrariums all over the place. I would never get anything done.
Right.
And plus, I wouldn't have any room to walk. So we keep them in 10 gallons, a little dish of water. We change everything out, wipe the sides down, or not, we just change out the actual cage and put them into a new cage every day, depending on how many are in there.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, just keeping them clean and keeping them sanitized, well-fed. That's the way that you want to kind of raise them up.
So I see you've got some redfoot tortoise frogs over here. Some baby redfoot tortoise frogs over here. So you're not just a frog guy, you're a tortoise guy as well.
Yeah, I like the little tortoises. The redfoot's probably the biggest of the species that I ever want to work with. But they seem to have a lot of personality to them.
Yeah, they're great.
They like the same humidity as the frogs. I could never have a desert animal in this house because it would probably get respiratory within minutes.
Right.
The average humidity in here, in this room, is usually like 75 to 80%. So it is a little sticky in here.
Yeah, it is a little sticky, yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
No, it's all good. All right, coming downstairs, there's an appropriate rug. All right, room number, I lost count.
These are Cruzial Craspidopus. This one is about a week out of the water.
And these are the ones that are found in Peru.
Correct. And this is an adult female, which is gravid by, you can tell by the big ass butt. And see the eggs, or you can see the eggs kind of piling out that way. But
she's got a gut.
She's got a gut. This is like my holy grail frog when I was back in the day, about 25 years ago, when I was asking about this frog. People told me, you'll never own this animal, which was very disappointing, actually.
Right.
So when I had the opportunity, as sad as this is going to sound, I figured I'm not going to live till I'm 65, so I sold my 401k to get the opportunity.
Why not?
And this is it. They're not very prolific. They only lay like anywhere from 8 to 24 eggs a year.
Right.
But and typically you could breed them twice a year, but I don't really like to push it because, of course, it's my holy grail frog.
Sure.
And I don't want to lose it. So we actually been holding them back to where they're getting more and more white spotting, and it's actually been more appealing to like some of my Japanese and Chinese customers when we go to ship them overseas.
Sure.
So what we're hoping is we actually get a solid white Craspidopus with blue crackling.
That would be amazing.
So it's going to take a few years, but I think we could do it. All right, so over here we got the what used to be called Hylomanthus lemurs, now is actually classified as Agalictus lemur, which I don't agree with that either. But since they decided to change the name, we have to follow by the rules. We can no longer technically export these out of the country unless we have master CITES for size 2 animals.
Right.
So, but these are critically endangered in the wild as it is, and most of Costa Rica, they're just gone.
Right.
So they only exist in a couple areas. Thanks to the efforts of Brian Dickey down at the
Costa Rican amphibian
research facility. These actually became into the hobby, and then, well, for the most part, some people have been working with them, some people haven't.
Right.
So we decided we're going to kind of go full-fledged with it. So we raised up a bunch of adults, and hopefully we can at least produce somewhere around like 12 to 1,500 a year.
So back in 2011, I actually went to Brian's place in Costa Rica, and we were I think Brian said we were the first professional film crew to actually find wild lemurs in the wild and film them. And then to see what you're working with here, this is just awesome.
Now I do have a present to show you.
You have a present for me? Is it a lemur? All right, look at this blue lemur. What's the story on the blue one?
Well, we don't really know. It just kind of popped out.
That is just amazing. Is that like a xanthic?
Yeah, we would think that it'd be more of an axanthic. We're actually hoping to prove it out here because these are siblings that are all in here. Some of the males actually are a little bit bluer than they are green, but not quite that blue. So, with any luck, we could actually pop out a few more of them so you can kind of experiment with it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, nothing compares to a normal lemur, just like, nothing compares to a normal red eye.
Right.
Albinos and all that. But I just figured, well, this would be something cool to play with,
This is awesome. All right, so with nobody really breeding lemurs in captivity, how did you figure out how to do it?
Well, Understory is another one. They're a company based in Canada. They were actually the ones that sold them to us, because I guess they bred them there, but it was because of Brian Dickey. But I figured that, well, let's try and see if they work like a red eye, or if they need to be kept a little bit cooler. It turns out they do need to be kept a little cooler to breed than a red eye. So, especially when we did all the research on where they're from, it actually wasn't really much above 82 degrees during the day, and then it was dropping down to 68 at night.
Right, it gets cold there at night. They're up in the mountains.
Right. So, for that being said, we just kind of worked it like that, and if you can see the example here is it kind of worked. See, we got one female that needs to. But then you have the eggs, you still have some
Yeah, look at that. They just kind of lay egg masses right on the side like that. How many egg masses does an average female?
Per year, she can lay as many as, well, we've tried not to push it past 4, but we've seen them balloon back up with eggs again, like a 5th time around. And, you know, at that point, I'm kind of worried about, frogs getting egg bound. A lot of people think that they can reabsorb their eggs. Not always, especially if they produce a lot of eggs. So what I mean by egg bound is like the eggs basically don't get passed, so they just basically rot inside the body.
Yep. All right, so you keep all of your adult frogs in these tanks with just paper towels and a water dish, and you keep all of them here until they're ready to breed, and then you put them in this, which is called a rain chamber.
Correct. It's easier to keep them sterile, cleaner, well fed. They find the food faster, so this way they get all the nutrients they need, through gut loading the crickets, of course, and dust.
Yep.
So usually they say that the dust lasts on the cricket for about 4 hours, so you want to make sure that they get it before that 4 hours is up. Usually I don't feed until they've actually, like the lights have all shut down, everybody's been misted, and then basically they do their shed, and then they go starting to hunt. So as soon as they start to do the hunt thing, they can actually find the cricket faster.
Sure.
You know, I mean, like, you'll still see a few crickets in there. So these cages have already been cleaned, obviously. You'll wipe all the sides, get all the shed, all the poop. And this way it keeps it a little bit more sterile and you have less problems.
Right. But again, you wouldn't think to keep tropical frogs on dry paper towels with a little water dish.
Right. Well, with the humidity in here around 85% sometimes. I mean, the towels are a little dry right now, but that's how we keep them typically until we shut the lights off, then we mist them down. We'll kind of moisten things up.
Sure.
So, with that being said, yeah, you're right. I mean, it does seem a little strange.
Yeah, right. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Paper towel, I'm usually thinking moss, plants.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's a good way to keep them if you don't have an enormous collection. It's just a lot harder to keep those cages clean, in mass like that. So, now we have figured out, though, now a lot of people agree with me on this, is the cleaner you keep your smaller frogs, the faster they grow. And we're thinking that, hey, here's a comparison. So basically we took one tank like this with red eyes and albino red eyes and all that stuff, kept it like this, and then switched them into another tank. So we had 2 tanks. The one we cleaned every day. The other one we cleaned every other day. The one over here grew twice as fast.
Interesting.
So we don't know if it's because of the little smudge fingerprint stuff that they actually, put on there.
Right.
They call it like a reusable glue, but I think it actually leaves a residue on the glass. It actually stunts other frogs in a way.
Yeah, I've read something about that before, actually.
And I think that's nature's way of saying, you know what, there's too many of you guys.
Right.
Slow it down.
Right.
So we just decided, you know what, let's just clean everybody every day, So we do that, and it makes it better for a better animal.
Yeah. All right, so we were talking about the most popular frog that you work with is the red-eyed, and here are the albinos and the bubblegums.
Right. And basically, they're about done with their little
yeah,
deal
look
here.
at this. You got an egg mass here, an egg mass here, one there, one over there.
All right. There's a total of 4 females in here, 2 of them being bubblegum. And basically, no, actually there's 5. There's 5 females, 2 of them being bubblegum. So we took the albinos that were possibly het for purple, which that's what actually creates the actual bubblegum. I'll get into that in a second.
Yep.
But seeing what it would do if we bred the albinos that are het for black to the actual purples themselves, or pinks themselves. So this way we can kind of get an idea of what this, how many are going to be purple, how many are going to be pink, how many are going to be albino, how many are going to be normal for all that.
Sure.
So, but we also have it, we're just scratching the surface with this because there could be other things that could pop out of that. We've already popped out like orange albinos.
Nice.
Instead of yellow. So, with that being said, let's see what happens when we breed the bubblegums to the actual albinos themselves. I mean, we actually have Latinos in there, which is another form of albinoism.
Right.
That's the one that has the whiter eyes, has the red rim around it, the eye, and has the red rim around the pupil.
So how many morphs of red-eyed tree frogs are there?
Okay, let's count them down. We got normal, or wild type, whatever you call it. You got the albino, has no T positive to it or nothing, no Latino. So it's just a normal albino. They're nice.
Yeah.
You got the Latino, which is another form of albino. So it's got the whiter eyes, like a white and red marbling to the eye. That's your typical Latino. You got the T positive albino. See how the green has come back over the top of the albino body?
Yeah.
More of an electric pink to like a baby blue on their sides. Then you've got the purples.
So would this be considered almost melanistic?
It is melanistic.
That's what makes it purple, is melanistic.
And then you got the other part of it that's got the transparent bellies. You can see the little heart beating.
Yeah. So they've got white, almost transparent bellies.
And you can see the sperm ducts on them too, right there.
Yeah, look at that.
You got the burgundies.
All right, so that's the burgundy.
Who does not want to stand still? And bubblegum.
And bubblegum. So what makes the bubblegum gene? These are like albino burgundies.
Well, albino purples, albino burgundies. You could, either one of that gene. It's a melanistic gene crossed with the albino gene. But the transparent gene that's in the actual purple, that's what actually brings the more see-through skin out. And then you take the double hets and breed them back to each other. 1 out of every 64 typically would be bubblegum. And then you have the see-through stomachs, just like you would on the purples.
So there's a number of red-eyed tree frog morphs out there that not a lot of people know exist.
But there is another one that's starting, which we've been noticing. We've popped out normals that actually have white eyes. So we're calling them the hangover morph.
The hangover morph, love it. So that's a red-eyed tree frog with white eyes. And these just happen to come out of...
Just happen to come out of it all.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. Hangover morph, I love it. New morph of red-eyed tree frog.
It's the Tinley Park morph.
The Tinley Park morph, I love it. That's great. So outside here, you've set up these greenhouses in the backyard here.
Well, the first thing I want to do is setting them up for a tadpole one right here for larger clutches like the Pachymedusa or the bicolor.
Right.
But I also do some water plants as well that people use for either like some bog setups or like newt setups or well. This way it helps absorb the nitrates, give it a little bit more of a natural feel to it, especially in the tropical one.
Sure.
But the cool thing is like the reverse osmosis unit that I have to fill this up. I'm actually kind of proud of this. Here, I'll show you real quick. Because we actually tied it. You know how you always have that waste of water? It takes 4 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of pure water. So we took all the water and that's where we just feed it into. Tortoise food.
There you go. So this is essentially all the wastewater that you're recycling into a garden to feed the tortoises.
Correct.
That just rules. All right, so here's another greenhouse you're working with back here.
Got some dwarf water lettuce I'm trying to like acclimate. And then growing the plants, of course, that we can put in the rain chambers.
Look at that.
And then we got the big rain chamber we do for the packies. A heater kind of artificially warm it up in here on those cool nights.
Yeah.
So this way you can actually get it stimulated to like 74, 75 in here still. And then of course we got the fogger that rolls. And basically it's an industrial fogger, 9 disc. It'll actually create enough room. This whole thing will be cloud forced in about 20 minutes. This barrel gets fed a bunch of RO until it gets up to the actual water mark where there's a valve on it that shuts it off.
Okay.
And basically this will control that cooling fan and some of the misting system in here. So every time that it uses water, it comes from that gallon, or that 55 gallon drum. That cooling fan kicks on when it hits 86 degrees. And it boosts the humidity up, and it also will cool the room down literally 10 degrees within like say 17 seconds, I think is what we counted it.
Really?
Really
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's a full throttle. What we did was we took a regular Lasco fan, that's called? Lasco, yeah. And hooked the misting system up to it onto a thermostat. So every time it hits 86 degrees, that thing clicks on and it cools everything down and makes the humidity just jump up. And basically acts like rain.
That is pretty ingenious.
So,
all right, so how long did it take you to develop all of this?
oh, this is like 25 years of knowledge now.
Yeah,
So,
I don't doubt it.
over the years, I mean, you never know everything, do you? You always learn something. Like up until about 2 years ago, I thought I was pretty good at breeding tree frogs. Then I went down to Costa Rica and figured out I really didn't know as much as I thought I did.
Right.
Once I figured that out, that's where I created the whole humidity thing in here, and you know, of course, I've bumped up a couple of systems in there, and I've had a lot more better breeding. So, yeah, for the most part, I mean, it's all what it's all about, though, is just kind of like rethinking everything. Every time you think you know something, you don't. So you just got to keep on figuring stuff out, reading, research. Books aren't going to tell you everything that you learn at this. You got to figure it out for yourself sometimes.
That is very true.
So,
and watch really good YouTube videos. Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, this has been an awesome tour. I want to thank you so much for having me over. I've wanted to come out here for years. Every time I see you at Tinley, you're like, come to Cleveland, and glad that I finally got to your facility to see this. This was awesome. Wow. So Rattlers, comment below, let me know what your favorite frog that you saw in this video was. And of course, as always, like this video and share this video. Hit that subscribe button. When you do, hit that bell so you never miss an upload. And until the next reptile adventure, love the planet, feed your reptile obsession, and rattle on.